Hello, my name is Meredith Crossan, and I'm a reading specialist candidate at Jacksonville State University. Today, I would like to talk to you about some goals for reading instruction with our students and also some foundational knowledge that we as reading specialists should have so that we can help our students meet those goals. Some of the goals for reading instruction are that students will become confident readers. We also want them to be able to comprehend what they read. Not only do we want them to read for knowledge, but we also want them to read for pleasure. We want them to enjoy what they're reading. To meet these goals, we need to have an effective reading program. The effective reading program needs to provide students with a variety of experiences that relate to reading. And one way we can do this is through word recognition instruction. This type of instruction can be integrated either through a basal reading program or through a supplemental program. As a reading specialist, I can use this program with the provided materials, and I can use this through shared reading, guided reading, and writing activities. Beginning in kindergarten, the main goal with word recognition instruction is to help students figure out the alphabetic system and the relationship between letters and sounds. Once these relations have been taught, I can move into word families that have similar letter patterns. Students will also have the opportunity to work with larger units such as spelling patterns and on set and rhymes. More advanced word recognition instruction will allow students to focus on structural analysis, the identification of root words, prefixes, and suffixes. They'll also have the chance to learn how to read multisyllabic words. Students will be introduced to irregular word meanings or irregular words, which means that these words are difficult to read using a sounding out strategy. The next topic is language comprehension. So there is a connection between language and literature. Literature is a secondary system. It is dependent on language, which is a primary system. There is evidence that students with a delayed or poor language acquisition will very likely be poor readers and writers. So, what do we do? What do we as reading specialists do? It is important that as reading specialists, we understand the systems of language. There are 7 different systems of language, and the first one I want to talk to you about is phonology. Phonology is the sound system by which phonemes can be sequenced, combined, or pronounced to make words. As a task that I would ask my students to do to check their phonology, would ask them how many speech sounds are in this word, or I might ask them to blend the sounds together to pronounce a word. Morphology is the system of meaningful units and word formation patterns within a word. A task that I could ask my students would be, do you recognize a part in the word that carries meaning? Next is pragmatics. Pragmatics is the use of words or expression for specific purposes is necessary for expressing meaning. A question I might ask my students would be, what does the punctuation mark tell you? Because depending on the punctuation mark gives expression or different meaning to the sentence. The fourth system of language is discourse. And this is when units of language are larger than a single sentence. So, a question I would ask a student might be, why did the author choose this type of paragraph? Or, how is the organization of this text different from another text? Orthography. This is print or written language system, spelling patterns. You could ask what letters are typically used to spell whatever word. Number 6 is semantics. This is the study of words and phrase meanings and relationship. So, for example, I could ask or say, the word bat has multiple meanings. and talk about the different meanings of the word bat because it does have several different meanings, but it's spelled exactly the same way. Another example would be the word order and sequence have similar meanings. The last one is syntax. Syntax is just the permissible word order in sentences. So you're just trying to get the order of the sentence correct. An example would be a cat sat on the fence. Or the wrong way would be sat on a cat fence the. That does not make any sense. In my internship, I was with first grade, and I got to experience syntax with my first grade students as they were trying to put a sentence in the correct order. And some of the students really struggled with this. So syntax is very important, or the sentences are not going to make sense. Strategic knowledge. How I, as a reading coach, would use this. I can apply this when I'm planning to work with teachers and students. Before I begin working with teachers, I would like to work with my principal to define my role as a reading specialist so that when I go out and meet with teachers, my role is clearly defined so that everyone knows, and also that I have the backing of my principal. When I meet with teachers for coaching cycles, I want their input as to what topics they want to focus on. I also want to show them research-based evidence that supports the strategies that I'm introducing to them. Working with students also requires strategic knowledge. Looking over the data to know what types of intervention each student should receive, knowing how to group students and when to meet with students individually all requires strategizing. Just because you have the data in front of you and you have placed a student in a group and you have all your materials ready, it doesn't mean that that student is going to learn like all the other students in that group. The last one is reading and writing connection. Reading and writing depend on the same skills. Research does suggest that reading and writing skills are best developed when they are taught together. A strategy that I would use would be decoding and encoding word lists. Word lists that require students to both read and spell words containing specific patterns is one way to connect reading and writing. As students read the word, they have to rely on their phonics and their phonemic knowledge to identify what each letter says. Then, as they spell the word, they need to rely on that same knowledge to determine what letters should represent the sounds that they hear. When we talk about professional judgment to improve students' development and achievement, I would begin by looking at student data because data does tell you a lot about the student. I would also meet with teachers to discuss the student's reading development because the teacher is with the student a lot, so they're going to know a lot about that student. I would group students based on the data and also on teacher input. I worked with a reading coach at my school that I did my internship with, and this is what she did. I helped her put students in groups based on data and also teacher input. I was with her when she met with teachers and had discussions about the groups, and her method just seemed to work really well. The students that were in the groups just seemed to mesh together really well, and they, as she was teaching and doing her interventions, the students just seem to be together and just learn together very well. It was a lot of extra work on her part, but in the long run, it benefited the students, and that's what it's all about. I would also give assessments, but then again, these assessments don't have to be formal, they can be informal. Just doing observations, doing just quick checks by having them hold up something or just walking around and looking at their work, doing observations by going in the classroom. Those are very helpful as well. The Alabama Reading Initiative, you can support that as a reading specialist. And as a reading specialist, it would be my job to improve the content, knowledge, and skills of teachers so that we can impact student learning. The overall goal for the Alabama Reading Initiative is to have proficient readers by third grade. I can support my teachers through coaching, modeling lessons, doing intervention with students, and assisting with assessments. The Alabama Literacy Act has been put into place, and the goal for that is similar to the Alabama Reading Initiative. The goal for the Alabama Literacy Act is to improve the reading proficiency of public school kindergarten to third grade students and to make sure that they are ready to read at or above grade level by the end of third grade. And this is going to be monitored for each student as they progress through each grade level. To support this as a reading specialist, it will be my job to provide intensive support to elementary schools who are among the lowest 5% of elementary schools. However, if they are not among the lowest 5%, then the school receives limited literacy support, meaning that a reading specialist or reading coach would actually have 2, maybe 3 schools that they go to. However, the support will be provided through on-site visits, monitoring the progress of students by analyzing the data. I can also serve as a source for professional development for the teachers, also just providing instruction and intervention for the students. So thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.